Hello everyone, it is Rachel back again from Maker's Gonna Learn, your ultimate die cutting community. If you have not already subscribed to Maker's Gonna Learn and you do not know who we are or what we do, you are missing out. Click the very first link in the description below to see what all we have to offer, along with offering services to so many different die cutting machines like the Cricut, the Silhouette, and the Brothers ScanNCut. We also have over 3,000 digital cut files, over 300 amazing fonts. We do offer free commercial licensing, amazing printable guides, awesome other online resources. We have a members only Facebook group and so much more. I hope that you guys decide to check out Maker's Gonna Learn. Again, that is in the very first link in the description below. We would love to have you all join our family. But without further ado, guys, I do want to show you guys what we are going to be diving into today. So a lot of new Cricut owners are out there in the world now. If you are one of them, congratulations. I hope you are loving your new die cutting machine. But there are some tricky things that you just may not know just starting out with your Cricut, and we definitely just want to dive into those and make sure that you guys know what you're dealing with and know some signs and things like that for your cutting machine. So for today, what we are going to be talking about is how to determine the best cutting pressure to use with your Cricut. So what I meant by we want to show you guys some signs is that there are some signs and signals that your machine will tell you if your blade is not cutting correctly. So I do have some examples on the table here today, and I will be going over those as well as showing you guys how you can change your blade's pressure. But one thing I did want to mention was that if you guys have the Cricut Maker, which is the machine above the Explorer Air 2, then you guys might know that it comes with that adaptive tool system. It allows you all to be able to cut felt and fabric with that rotary blade, and wood and balsa wood and chipwood with that knife blade, and so on and so forth. Most of those blades or tools cannot change its cutting pressure. Some of them can, some of them cannot. But if we're talking about fine point blade, deep cut blade, things like that, then you absolutely can change your pressure, and I will show you how and why you need to in this video. So again, why you would want to change your pressure is if your machine is over or underperforming. So I do have examples of both, because whenever you put a brand new blade in your housing and place it in your machine, you might think, okay, it's going to cut just fine. So you set it on your setting that you would like normal, and it cuts way too deep. Well, that is because a very new fresh blade will cut a little bit easier, meaning it'll cut a little bit I don't know, deeper, I guess is the term I'm looking for. It's hard to determine what your blade, how it will cut day to day. It just depends on how much you cut, the materials that you cut, and things like that. So definitely be careful when you are putting a brand new blade in. Sometimes that is when we will use less pressure, and that just means that new blade is super sharp and super ready to cut, and we just want to kind of back it off a little bit and make sure it's not going to go straight through our vinyl and the backing. So the opposite side of the spectrum for that is actually if your blade is too dull, and that will not cut your materials as well. So you will see signs like that as well. Like I have some paper here that I'll show you guys on the overhead cam, and it just didn't cut all the way through. The same setting we always use, same pressure we always use, and it failed to cut through. And then you have some more delicate papers that, again, I have another example here. The paper will just drag and not cut properly at all. Now there could be some more reasons for that than just your blade being dull. Your mat might not be sticky enough, or your housing might not be all the way down in clamp B as it should be. It just depends on the factors, of how you are crafting. But in general, if it's dragging, if it's not cutting through, your blade is too dull. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to change your blade. That just means that you might need to change your pressure of your blade. And that can give you guys a couple more weeks out of that blade, because as we all know, they do not grow on trees. They are not cheap. So we want to give you guys all of the information to be equipped to be able to hold onto your blades as long as you can. So more and less pressure are the keys to doing that. Knowing the signs, when to change your pressure, knowing how to do it properly, and everything like that. So Also, I did want to mention it's super important to, of course, always have some extra blades and things with you. So here we just have a really cute little storage caddy. I have featured this in several other videos. This caddy I got from Hobby Lobby. I think it's originally for like little craft products and beads and stuff, but it actually goes perfectly with Cricut because all the Cricut tools and blades fit perfectly in here. So I will link this craft caddy down below, and also I will link the video where I talk all about this guy down below. But up here at the top, I wanted to mention we do carry a lot of extra blades. So if you can see all those, we have the premium fine point blades and the regular fine point blades, just a ton of new ones. So you do want to have new ones, you know, stocked up for when you are crafting and you've had it on more pressure for a while and it's just not cutting well and you need to change it. Nothing is worse than being held up by crafting by not being prepared with a couple of extra blades. So let's go ahead and show you guys the examples of these fails that just cut completely wrong because of air pressure. Here's a great example of your blade not cutting well enough. You can see where it tried to cut a little bit right here and then started dragging all through here. And it is kind of bent our paper and things like that. And this is just a fail. We needed to have a fresh blade on this or more pressure or something like that. It just didn't cut well. You can see how it dragged. It kind of tried to cut there, but not so well. And then on the opposite spectrum of that, I wanted to show you guys something that cut too well, okay? So this is with a 1-day new blade. The very first day we popped a blade, and this is the next project we tried to cut. So I did pop this out to make it easier, but it was not hard for me to do so. This is just regular vinyl. It has the backing on it, and of course it has your adhesive vinyl up top. And the goal here is to cut through the blue, but not the white. So you want to be able to weed from this if you guys have ever used adhesive vinyl. And with this setting, with this brand new blade, it cut through completely. Look at this. It just cut completely through. Like, that's not what we want. That is a waste of vinyl, and it would be so hard to just weed it from this little guy here and then to add your transfer tape. It's just not what we want to do. So this right here is not good. We wanted to use less pressure. So this is what will happen if you have a brand spanking new blade in, and maybe you put it on default or accidentally more pressure and it cut all the way through, or at least most of the way through. This is what we do not want. If your machine is doing this, you need to put it on less pressure. I would recommend putting on less pressure after you put a new blade in regardless. So no matter what you're cutting, whether that's iron-on, heavy cardstock, vinyl, whatever, I would always put it on less pressure. Now, again, another example of it not cutting all the way is these basic shapes here. So I realized that these are white and it's on a white table. So I'm going to move my mat in here and then show you guys what I mean. So you guys can see, and I just let this cut. I had this on the heavy cardstock setting with more pressure, and my blade was just too dull. It just wouldn't work. So if I pop this guy out, you can see how it frayed, how it just did not cut correctly. And this guy cut awful. I'll pull him out. Okay. You can see where he kind of ripped. You can see how hard it was for me to pull these off. Pull him off, looky there. So this is what we do not want. We do not want our blade to be cutting this dull. So put it on more pressure, or even, guys, if you're working with something like a heavier cardstock, my recommendation to get a little bit more life out of that Cricut blade as well, if you're using this type of material, is to just go ahead and put it on craft board with more pressure. Now, craft board, as you guys know, is that Cricut brand very, very heavy cardstock. It is super, super heavy. So I often put my heavy cardstock like this. I think this is like 110 pound, 100 pounds, something like that. I will go ahead and put this on craft board with more pressure, and that seems to cut just fine, especially with a bit of a duller blade. So think about that as you are you know, looking for signs about if your Cricut is cutting well or not. So if it's cutting through your backing, or if it looks like it's not, but when you're weeding up, you seem to have some pull there where the blade has just probably went too deep and it's trying to get you to weed up the backing as well, that's a no-no. You need to be using less pressure. If your blade is dragging and kind of shredding things like this, or it's cutting just a little bit and no more, you guys need to use more pressure. So these are just a little bit of signs. I won't go into all the signs of the other adaptive tools where, you know, like the rotary blade and things like that, because they kind of all apply. You know, if your felt is not cutting as well, or if it's perforated, you know that you need a new blade. If your knife blade is done all of its X amount of passes and it's still not cut through, you need a new knife blade. I won't go into big detail about those. I will focus on the fine point blades and things like that. But now we're going to go ahead into Design Space and maybe have some basic shapes just like these and show you guys how you can change your pressure. Alrighty, let's go ahead over to some shapes here, and I will get a circle. And let's put him over here. Let's go back and get a heart. Great. And now we'll get a star and just have it just like we had cut out before. Perfect. So now once you have all of these, and this could be a cut file, it could be a quote you design with one of our amazing fonts, it could be anything you want it to be. Just for argument's sake, this is what we're going to be using today. So we are going to go over here and click Make It, but before we do, something I forgot about was right up here next to Make It, there is a drop down menu, and we do have our Explore on the table today. So it is set to Maker, so I just need to go down here and click Explore, so it will be able to give me the proper materials and what it can cut and everything like that. So now I'm just going to click Make It. And it doesn't matter, we don't need to mirror this or anything like that. We're just going to be talking about pressure today. So we're just going to go ahead and click continue. Now, it would be so easy for you guys to miss the less and more pressure setting because it's basically there and gone in the blink of an eye. So let's say that we're going to select heavy cardstock here. So we're going to click that. And then number 2, right here, it tells you to load tools and materials. But if you go up a little bit, after number 1, down here you will see pressure. Do you all see that? Right here it is. It says pressure. So right now it's set to default, as is every single material. So again, if your blade is brand new, you just put one in yesterday or this morning or something like that, you might want to use less pressure, okay? Especially on things like vinyl and iron-on. Now on cardstock, really what you're trying to do is cut through it. So if you want to leave it on default with a fresh blade, be my guest. It's really not a big deal. It's way more important that you do not waste your valuable material like iron-on and vinyl by cutting directly through onto those backing sheets and transfer sheets. So we don't want that. So there is less pressure. And then in the same spot, if you click on it again, you can see more pressure. Now this is where you would click more pressure if your blade is a couple of weeks old or you use it a ton and you've noticed it dragging on your paper projects and not cutting as well on your vinyl projects. You're having to burnish way more, it's harder to weed, then you know that you need to put that more pressure on. You can get several more weeks of life out of your blades just by changing the pressure. So this is a very important video for a lot of our Cricut newbies out there because blades are not cheap and we want to make sure that you guys know these cool little hacks here. So that is how you change your pressure on your Cricut Design Space here. So that is amazing, guys. I hope that you enjoyed that. And again, right here under number 1, you will click your material just as you would, and then it kind of just pops down to number 2, and it's really easy to forget and not to see, but then it's right there for you, more or less pressure. Well guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video all about how to determine the best cutting pressure to use with your Cricut. It's really something that I did not know when I first started Cricuting. I wish someone had told me. I was throwing out a lot of blades and just not really knowing what was wrong until one day Tanner said, why don't you use more pressure? And I thought, more pressure? What in the world is he talking about? And he showed me how and he told me the benefits, and it was really great. My mind was blown. And of course, guys, you all know when we get to know something and we learn a hack, we want to immediately share it with you guys. So I hope that you did enjoy this video. As always, guys, leave us a comment down below if you have any questions or concerns about the video or how to do this method. If you haven't already, subscribe down below and get notifications for all these amazing videos. Again, click the very first link in the description if you want to learn about Maker's Gonna Learn and see so much amazing crafty inspiration. That's all we're here to do for you guys, is inspire you to craft more and more. And guys, I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.